How to get the best graphics within Rust console within 2025. Now we're heading into 2025, which is going to be a make or break year for Rust console, and a lot of people are within this topic of graphics for the game. Now we know the graphics aren't the best. Today's video is going to be covering the best graphics you can have for Rust console going into 2025, and we'll talk about the pros and cons as to why these are the best settings and why not a lot of people use these settings within the game currently. Now on screen you're going to be seeing my graphical settings that I've had pretty much since I started playing Rust. So these are the ones that kind of have very low graphical aesthetic, but the performance is the best. And now talking about performance, the two things you've got to bear in mind is the monitor you're playing on and the console you have. If you have a really bad monitor or just a standard TV that isn't going to register or have a great performance based hardware that will allow it to run at like 60 FPS, although 60 FPS is like so general and within basically most TVs and monitors nowadays, as well as the hertz, basically it depends on how good your monitor is. But if you have a really standard gaming monitor or you have a gaming monitor period, then you're pretty much solid for this. And the console as well. If you're playing on old gen, there's no point in putting these settings or listening to this video for that fact. If you have a new gen, however, this will obviously apply to you. If you have an old gen playing Rust console in 2024 heading into 2025 and you're a die-hard player, if at all possible, try and get a new gen console. They're easier than I believe they've ever been, and they're cheaper than they've ever been. You can get them on such payments as like 3 installments, or you can get them at a Christmas discount. I would urge you, if you like to play Rust console on a daily basis, then you should try and steer away from old gen, because number one, it's not the best console for you to play games on if you are a die-hard gamer, and two, it's holding many games back. So these settings you could say are like for PvP, so graphical wise not that good, but for performance wise they're as good as we're basically going to get, because we have restricted graphical effects as opposed to what PC have with graphical sliders. So the settings I'm going to be testing out today is the FPS limit. We're putting that on. Basically locks the frame rate and enables VSync. I've heard from quite a lot of people that turning FPS limit on basically makes the game at a fixed rate like it says for the frame rate. So for example, if I'm correct in saying if you put the FPS limit on, it will lock it at like 60 FPS depending on how good your game and your monitor is. Next one is terrain quality. I mean, for the best graphical settings, you're obviously going to put these on high. I usually have them on low or very low for PvP purposes. However, we're going to put them on high and then we'll have some gameplay in the background for you. And for sharpening, I've turned that on as well. So in the background, you're going to be basically seeing the gameplay that I had with the settings, just basically roaming around Rust in the normal woodland biome, the snow biome, and the desert biome, basically testing them out. I'll be honest with you, there's not a clear-cut difference in these settings. Again, depends on the monitor you're playing on, and things that really like kind of pissed me off when looking at this as well is the gun textures. This is something I've covered in past graphical videos when to do with Rust console, and a lot of you were saying, oh no, you just have to turn your graphics up and then the AK will look fine. No, it still looks like a piece of shit, and I'll be honest with you, the graphics don't look great either. One thing that is notably bad about the graphics within 2024 Rust console is the contrast and the shadows. The shadows are so strong, there's huge amount of contrast, and when you see players in the background, one, you can't really see them and you can't adjust that, whereas on PC you can, and as well, they just come out as like a black dot. You can't really see the player like you used to be able to. I wouldn't be surprised if something in the future, such as a cheat for reshading, something we spoke about in the previous video to do with Tacular, and what many PC players do because it is so goddamn dark and they don't want to have a flashlight on, they have this thing that turns down or turns up the gamma where you can basically see within the night. So basically you have night vision goggles, but you don't at the same time. It's basically cheating over on Rust PC, and I wouldn't be surprised if something like this happens. It was already happening with Rust console with regards to just not the night time, but how bad the graphics are at the moment. I'll be eager to see what Double 11 comes up with for Rust console in 2025 regarding graphics, because something really does need to change. I've spoken to Pedro on numerous occasions, he's fed it back to the team. People within Double 11 know how badly the graphics need to change, how badly the performance needs to change, and the community's been crying out for that, so we'll just have to see. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this video guided you to make the best settings that you can. One thing to note with these settings is that it won't guarantee you a great experience within the game. It will still lag if you have it on like ramped up to the max with high terrain, sharpening and FPS limit. If you have the performance at its max, because we're optimized for old gen as well, there's still going to be some lag. So my, I guess, advice for you is to play on low terrain quality because there's not much difference in it. Have FPS limit on if you so wish to play at like 60 FPS, and turn sharpening off. Have basically everything off. You don't need it. I don't turn blood on. I don't have any of that on. I basically just want bare bones graphics with Rust because the graphics aren't that great in the first place. Hopefully this helped you out. If you have any questions, be sure to leave a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great Christmas and a happy new year.